He's the Honourable Winston Peters. He's leader of the New Zealand First, and he's also our Deputy Prime Minister. Good to meet you again, Winston. Roger Hennebury. I remember you saying to me once I was the youngest looking president, but we're all looking grey now. So there you are, we're all in the same boat now. Look, Winston has always turned up to our meetings. As I said, I've been meeting him for 20 years since my first Federation board meeting, and he always turns up. So I want you to treat him with respect here today. He's the Honourable Winston Peters. He's leader of the New Zealand First, and he's also our Deputy Prime Minister. So put your hands together for Winston Peters. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, sir, for your introduction and for the chance to speak with you, albeit briefly here this morning in the heart of the Waikato, about issues which are important in this election, and also for coming out in circumstances where we are constrained with the size of audience we can have in a most difficult election with a lockdown which might be justified for Auckland, but it's not justified for Hamilton, for Wellington, the South Island, Hawke's Bay, or anywhere else, because you haven't had a case for the last 4 or 5 months. And I regret that that is the circumstance, and that's why we disagree, even though we are part of the government, with the lockdown settings at this point in time. There is no empirical health reason for that, and unnecessary caution is an enormous expense in an economy like ours. That said, we are standing at the edge, as you know, of an economic precipice. The economic contraction as a result of COVID-19 is the most severe that we've ever seen, apart from, and I'm having a good look around without looking too closely, that some people here might remember the outfall and effects of the Great Depression in the 30s. But I'm not going to point and look at anybody just in case somebody gets upset. But no one in this hall view, I would think, has any memory of something like this. And yesterday we find in terms of the cold, hard numbers, our economy shrank by 12% in 1 quarter. By 12% in 1 quarter. And what was amazing about the reaction was the number of people who did not think that this was a matter of enormous crisis, or were trying to give people assurances that we could handle this if we carry on doing what we're doing now. Now, you have to ask when you hear people talking about that as to why they would say that the worst circumstance they've seen in a lifetime of memory is something that they could handle, having never handled it before. As you well know, everybody is in this life dependent, no matter how old you are, on the prior experience that you've had in any circumstance that you might face into the future. And when you have challenges into the future, how you set yourself to handle them is dependent upon, as I say, your experience, your understanding, your education, and whatever you might have learned on the way through. That's why we say that life is a learning experience, because it is. But when you see an economic crisis like this, and I watch all the commentators talking about it, the question I ask is, well, why would you know, and how would you know better than others exactly what this means? But let me tell you one thing I do know, and it's this. When you see a crisis like yesterday's announcement being announced, at a decline in just 1 quarter, that's 3 months, of 12% in our GDP growth. When you see that, then you know that one group, on the past experience of this country, is going to end up paying for it. And guess who that group is? Because I'm looking at it. And why I'm saying that to you is that if you make the wrong decision, or if retired people make the wrong decision in this election, then they will be the masters of their own destiny. He slammed a surtax on your retirement income. Do you remember that? Well, I do, because great power was barely getting underway. And all of a sudden the place is wall to wall everywhere because the older people in this country were being attacked at that point in time. He put a surtax on your superannuation at the rate of 25 cents in the dollar. That's above and above what else you were ever earning. That's what he did. And that was blatantly unfair. He slammed a surtax on your retirement income. Do you remember that? Well, I do, because Great Power was barely getting underway. And all of a sudden the place is wall to wall everywhere because the older people in this country were being attacked at that point in time. He put a surtax on your superannuation at the rate of 25 cents in the dollar. That's above and above what else you were ever earning. That's what he did. And that was blatantly unfair. People had worked their whole adult lives. In that case, back in 1985, some people who had left school at 14 and 15 had worked 50-something years, and all of a sudden were being slammed for their savings. And here was the point. It was a right-wing revolution from within the Labour Party, and savings being surely an ethic in the right-wing philosophy of this country, nevertheless did not do a thing to put their hand up to help you. You should remember what happened back then. Well, I do, because I was in the National Party back then, and we were promising to get rid of the surtax, no ifs, no buts, no maybes, and guess we made that promise? Have you got a place down here called the Founders Theatre? Yes. Well, that's where Jim Bolger made it, down here, and some of you may well have been there that night. Now, what happened when he got in? I know. But do you remember what happened when he got in? Well, he got in, he blamed the BNZ disaster, right, on what he had to do next. A BNZ disaster, I might add, where he promised you that he was going to underwrite the bank and have a full-scale investigation into what had gone wrong with the BNZ. The day after the election, they dropped the investigation, did a deal with Michael Fay, and then blamed the BNZ cost of that rearrangement for the reason that they then attacked you. He said he was going to get rid of their surtax, no ifs, no buts, no maybes, and then he put it up to, at its worst, impost, 92 cents in the dollar. So that's Labour's record, and that's National's record. And I hope that people in the 700,000 who get superannuation in this country don't darn forget. Because you've had it happen to you in the past. Every time there's an economic downturn, they use you as the excuse, or any lousy excuse, to cut back. Now, do you recall what happened after the BNZ was was bailed out? Well, then Jim Bolger, just as an aside, then prepared it for a sale to the National Australia Bank 2 years later, 1 October 1992. Is that Jim Bolger calling up to say he's sorry for that? Somebody's phone's on here. And it's ringing.
I apologise for that. I asked everybody to turn off the phones.
Well, that turned the sound up so they can hear it. But anyways, it comes 1 October 1992, and then BNZ, which is our bank, the New Zealand Bank, we ourselves as people politically started, and which had 6 out of every 10 banking customers, was in the biggest bank in this country, BNZ, and he flogged it off to the National Australia Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, you must surely remember what happened back in those days. But here's the rub. When the Labour Party under Jim Anneton and Helen Clark, Lyons and Helen Clark, began the Kiwi Bank, they decided to, shaft the National Party by choosing Jim Bolger to head the Kiwi Bank board. And guess what Jim Bolger said when he took the job for the Kiwi Bank that the that Labour Party had set up? In his first press conference, he said, and you'll love this, ladies and gentlemen, he said, "I've always believed that New Zealanders should own their own bank." Come on, you guys. This is incredible. He just sold the biggest bank, our bank, the BNZ, not so long before that, and now he's saying in the opening line, I've always believed that New Zealanders should own their own bank. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you about other things in this past because it's to do with your economic future. There was a meeting in September 1993 by all the political 5%. 1%. One party refused to turn up, and we said that this was designed not to help old people, but to kick the politics of superannuation beyond the election. You're meeting behind the backs of the old people. You're not here to help them. And what's my evidence for saying that? And the reason why I refused to turn up in 1993 is because that's precisely what they did. They went straight for the floor, 65. Not 72, no, straight for 65. Perhaps if the thought had been 60, they'd have gone straight for 60 as well. And then here's the rub. Jenny Shipley, not long after that, took it down to 60%. Not 65 anymore. Labor promised to get rid of that. And yet, after 6 years of Helen Clark and Michael Cullen as the finance minister, superannuation was way below 65. It was way below 63%. And here's the difference. When New Zealand first got there in 2005, we changed that again and had it legislated back into law, not at 65, but at 66%. And then brought in the gold card. The difference is, I'm coming to you as a politician leading a party with a record of having said we're going to do things and having kept our word. And there's no other party with that record at all. My point to you is, here we come now with a huge crisis of COVID-19. And the first people they'll come for will be you. That's been their past. They've been, every one of them, wanted to change the age qualification, as though if you're on the shovel or in certain jobs, all your life you can be at 65 bouncing around, no, everything intact, nothing affecting your body, as though we had to somehow change the age group to a higher level of qualification. At the same time, they've all talked about putting the age of retirement up. They've been happy to allow in 90,000 people from offshore to come here, whether they pay tax or no tax, get full super after just 10 years. So if the amount of money is the concern, why have they all allowed that? And they all have. None of them are prepared to get up and say this is wrong. But one party has, and one party's currently got a bill before Parliament to take it to 20 years of age. And it's right that it should be 20 years of age. I just met a Swiss guy that's been here 50 years. He's got a fund from overseas. He's paid tax here 50 years, and yet he has that taken off him, while people who've come in here after 10 years, where they paid any tax at all, get full super. Now, we should not be talking about divisions in our society based on how long you're here. But there is no nation in the world prepared to give anybody a retirement income that beneficial or that generous after only 10 years. It should surely be 20 years. Now, when we put that bill up before Parliament, as a private member's bill, to take it to 20 years and beyond, guess what the National Party said at the time with their Attorney General, a man called Finlayson? He said, you can't do that, it's against the Bill of Rights. This is what we're dealing with in this business. And then, in the 2017 election, agreed that the age should be moved to 20 years in New Zealand. So one moment, it's against the Bill of Rights, so everybody vote this down, then they campaign on it. You can't trust them as far as you can spit it. With respect. And that goes for both of them.
Good boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, just one thing. National had that saying in the Founders Theatre, and I think it was, if I'm right, the 9th of June, 1990, when he said, we're going to get rid of national super, get rid of surtax rather, no ifs, no buts, no maybes. But I can recall back in 1984, in the campaign leading up to the 14th of July election, 1984, when Geoffrey Palmer was accused by the National Party of being capable of interfering with national super, he said these words. He said, anyone that says that Labor will interfere with national superannuation, quotes, is spreading rumour with malice, end of quotes. And that's precisely what they did within 1 year. I have to tell you that the fact that you're not angry suggests that I'm in front of the Waikato branch of the Mother Teresa Society.
No, Winston, you got it wrong. They're all scared stiff of me, and I told them to behave. You can all behave now, ladies and gentlemen.
No, because you're all sitting here taking the stuff when you're the masters of your own destiny. This election can be decided by you more than any other group. If you understand the economic circumstances of where you are now, look at the record of political parties and decide to if you do that. But if some of them, as I suspect, who are 65 and over, think they can carry on to have any political choice they like, and it has no consequences, well, stand back and watch. And you've been warned. It's happened over and over and over again. Can I just say, amongst other things, that we're very proud of bringing in the gold card in this country. It's been updated. There are hundreds of thousands of people now using the new app. We've got an update coming after this election because we think we can do much better with it. But as a consequence, you do that. But if some of them, as I suspect, who are 65 and over, think they can carry on to have any political choice they like, and it has no consequences, well, stand back and watch. And you've been warned. It's happened over and over and over again. Can I just say, amongst other things, that we're very proud of bringing in the gold card in this country. It's been updated. There are hundreds of thousands of people now using the new app. We've got an update coming after this election because we think we can do much better with it. But as a consequence, we've got huge benefits of thousands and thousands of businesses. But the thing is, in any card promotion like this, whoever's in government, it's critically important to promote it and push it as hard as you can go and to get more and more concessions. But look what we've got. Where there is free rail, where there is public transport, and where there is ferries, in off-peak hours it's free. The winter now allowance the payment is $1,600. That's dramatic if you live in any part of this country where you need energy. That's a huge change. And we've got all sorts of benefits that are in this coal card, as you know, including the rate rebate. All that is the result of a party that brought it in 2007. And I'm proud to say that the Super Gold Card, which is our idea, is an idea that depends, though, on the minister, who's the Minister of Senior Citizens, to aggressively push it. When National got in 2008, they totally didn't no work on it whatsoever. They allowed local bodies to start corroding the transport componentry, and they put a cap on it as well. Stephen Joyce was his name, the $11 billion fiscal hole man. Remember that? The $11 billion fiscal hole man, but that's what he did. You need the right person to be pushing it. In the last budget, it's already been budgeted for, and we are in the middle of negotiations with the medical fraternity, but we've already got the one doctor's visit free and the one eye check free for people who are over 65 years of age. As soon as we get the doctors and the medical eye check people to agree, it's off and running. It's already budgeted for, it's already paid for. And why have we done it? Well, up to 7,000 people go blind every year who would not be going blind if their condition had been analysed earlier. It is a massive waste of human capital. We will save an immense amount of money by doing this, and it's, as I say, already now budgeted for in the May budget this year. But the other thing, with one free doctor's visit, is this. If someone of 100 people, if one going to get a free doctor's visit doesn't go to hospital because they were analysed early enough, then it's fiscally neutral. If 2 out of 100 doesn't go to hospital because they were analysed by a doctor early enough, then we're going to save money. In short, it makes sense to do this rather than pick up the problem as an ambulance below the cliff and not have some sound policies above it. Ladies and gentlemen, those policies are what we're campaigning on. Free doctors' visits and eye checks are seriously important. I know we've already cut the cost of doctors' visits, but even for them, one free one a year, just to see whether you're okay, would be a good idea. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these policies stand to benefit every senior New Zealander, and that's a reflection of New Zealand's first dedication to older people. You know, we can promise you that when New Zealand first forms a government later this year, there'll be even more exciting and much-needed policies about how seniors can make their incomes go much further. That's the reason why we brought the gold card in. To go to a whole lot of retailers and wholesalers and say, if you take this consumer market on, you can afford to give them discounts. Crikey, I go to my hairdresser, I get a 33% discount. That's not bad, is it? 1/3 off. And I went to a guy yesterday in Tauranga, because we're on the road, can't get near our hairdresser, and he had a huge concession, also for people with a gold card. I thought it was rather embarrassing. He didn't ask me, did I have a gold card? He could have been nice, couldn't he? Said, do you have a gold card, Mr. Peters? He just assumed I had one. But to cut the story short, I've met women in the Hawke's Bay who've just stopped in the street and said, look, I've just had all my car tyres reduced. And I asked, are you going to give me a concession for the gold card? And the person said, yes, it's 20% off. Now, these are huge savings. They're in insurance, they're in travel, and many journalists are as well. Present company accepted. They just dismiss older people as though they're not important. I remind them that I've got a friend who's just stood down as the Prime Minister of Malaysia. He's 95 years of age. They're on the biggest recovery post-war in Europe after the disaster of the Second World War. The biggest recovery was in Germany, led by a man called Konrad Adenauer, and he was 85 years of age. And then there are people that go all the way across America to Omaha, Nebraska, and many journalists are as well. Present company accepted. They just dismiss older people as though they're not important. I remind them that I've got a friend who's just stood down as the Prime Minister of Malaysia. He's 95 years of age. They're on the biggest recovery post-war in Europe after the disaster of the Second World War. The biggest recovery was in Germany, led by a man called Konrad Adenauer, and he was 85 years of age. And then there are people that go all the way across America to Omaha, Nebraska, to see a man once a year, and his name's Warren Buffett. But Warren Buffett has got one of the greatest savings programs, investment programs in the world, and he's about 89, 90 years of age. So age is not a matter of actual age, it's how you treat yourself and how you regard yourself. And dare I say it, Winston Churchill and others were doing their best to save the darn world at that age as well. So, don't let them put you down on that question. They have a poor grasp of how much retired people's incomes, as low as it is, yet goes to your children and grandchildren. They don't realise how much money, as low as retirement income is not just for the older person in this country, but it's going to help their children and grandchildren. And it happens all over New Zealand. And one last thing. They have no grasp of just how the society would collapse if you stopped doing the voluntary work that many of you are engaged in. That's the real nub of it. It's high time, as Ali G said, they got respect for you. And I'll tell you how you get them to make sure they respect you. You go and you go and vote for your interests, and they'll be sure having some respect for you on election night. All of these policies stand to benefit every senior New Zealander, and that is a reflection of New Zealand's first dedication to older people. Ladies and gentlemen, when I started out with the superannuation issue in my political career, by the way, I was much younger then, and they couldn't say, I've got a self-interest, or you're doing it for yourself. And they'd say to me, how come all your meetings got all these people with grey hair in them? You remember what they said about me years ago? All those meetings got all these people with grey hair in them. So there's something wrong with grey hair. Everybody wants to have grey hair sooner or later. Who wants to die early, right? It's just that they don't have only done logic. That's what they used to say. But in all those decades, I can look you in the eye and say, I have done my darn best to get you respect from the political system and to ensure you got a fair go. Unlike other parties, we have kept our word to you. We have not forgotten you and the contributions you have made to this country. So don't let them stuff your retirement. You got that? Don't let them stuff your retirement. And just in case they say you're being unfair or asking for too much, you remind them that you're part of a generation, and previous generation with your parents and grandparents, who took a country the size of the UK and gave it every modern facility, roads, schools, universities, hospitals, every modern facility, and yet did it during that time with the population of Manchester. That's what your generation did. It's up to them to show you what they're going to do. And hitherto, they're not performing too well, are they? So don't take it from...
So once again, I'd like to thank Winston, and I say good luck and success in your future.
Can I say before I say thank you very much, the reality is, you know what these politicians are like. They're long on the lip and pretty short on the hair. I'm different.